The last 5 years has seen a new Arkham game released every other year, with the latest one being Batman Arkham Origins in 2013. If you're new to the Arkham series, like I was until 2 weeks ago, they're third-person action-adventure games based on the DC Comics superhero Batman. Arkham Origins is the third game in the series, but just like the name points out, it's actually the origin story of Batman rather than a sequel. This time development was handled by WB Games Montreal instead of Rocksteady Games like the first two. Arkham Origins takes place about 5 years prior to the events in the first game of the series. Bruce Wayne is still wet behind the ears and is learning the ropes of what it takes to become the Dark Knight. At this point in the story, the people of Gotham City had only just begun hearing of the Batman and thought he was a criminal. You get to see the first time Batman meets Commissioner Gordon, as well as his first run-in with many of the popular supervillains in the Batman universe, including the Joker. I found these meetings quite fascinating because in the previous two games, Batman already knew every single character and villain. Arkham Origins has a great story and is a great origin to the legend that is the Dark Knight.
There is no such thing as a Batman.
The graphics in Arkham Origins are very good. You can tell they have been steadily improving the game over the past 5 years. Differences between this game and its predecessors include a bigger city, different character models, and new voice actors. I enjoyed exploring the bigger Gotham City, but you can easily get lost if you're not paying attention to the map. When Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill left the series, there was a giant hole left behind, but the addition of Roger Craig Smith as Batman and Troy Baker as the Joker were great moves.
So, what our friend Bane holds in his hand is a heart monitor.
The only flaw in the presentation was that there was a major frame rate and texture issue on the PlayStation 3. I'm not sure how it was on the other consoles, but while I was playing, it went from being flawless to constantly slowing down and freezing. About halfway through the game is when it started to become a problem. Now this doesn't really hurt the game too much, but it did break the experience for me on multiple occasions. When you get to the end of a console lifecycle, you expect these kind of issues to be non-existent. Arkham Origins is identical to the previous games for the most part when it comes to the combat mechanics. Combat is done by using one button to attack, one button to counter, and a few buttons to use gadgets. It sounds quite simple, but it can actually be very deep if you want it to be. It revolves around trying to keep combos going on large groups of enemies by stringing together a series of attacks and counters. It is really easy to learn and is very fun most of the time. Arkham Origins combos felt much smoother and much more fluid compared to the rest of the series. A cool addition to Arkham Origins is the new crime scene investigation enhancement. Just like the first two games, you can investigate a crime scene, only now you can actually turn back time using your cowl in order to find out what actually happened. You aren't really turning back time, because let's face it, that would be ridiculous to do in a comic book superhero story. We all know they don't do ridiculous things like that. Batman Arkham Origins is another great addition to the Arkham series. It is not a perfect game by any means, as it has many technical issues, especially on the PS3 where I played it. But texture issues aside, the fact that it has an awesome storyline and gives you so many cool moments because it is an origin story really helps this game succeed. And on top of that, the combat system really seemed improved and much more fluid than its predecessors. I had my doubts about whether a new studio could handle this already great franchise, but all of those doubts were quickly shed away whenever I found myself lost in gameplay for several hours at a time. If you haven't already played this series yet, you could easily start with Origins and play it chronologically, but if you want to play it in order of improving gameplay mechanics, start from the first game and move forward. Either way, this is definitely a game you don't want to miss. For more on Arkham Origins and the full written review, head over to middleofnowheregaming.com.